Welcome back, everyone. We're going to be solving LeetCode 290 word pattern. So we're given a pattern in a string s, and we need to find if s follows the same pattern. Follow means a full match such that there is a bijection between a letter and pattern and a non-empty word in s. So our examples are a, b, b, a, and s is going to be dog, cat, cat, dog. This output's true, so a should map to dog. B should map to cat, B should map to cat, A should go to dog. Okay, so we can use a mapping here. So let's get that sorted first. Say mapping, and what do we want to do? We want to map every character in our pattern to the word in S. So we will have to say array is going to be equal to s dot split, so we can grab all those words. So then we will say for character in pattern, if that character is not in our mapping, we will what? We will say mapping of that character will be equal to the array word. But how do we get the word? We will have to say range length of pattern and let's change this to I. So for I in range length pattern, if we're checking the character, we're gonna have to say pattern of I. So we'll say if pattern at the ith index is not in our mapping, then mapping of pattern of I is going to be equal to what? It'll be equal to array of I. So let's look at our constraints here to see if we might have a pattern or a string longer than one or the other. So pattern can be between 1 and 300, and our string can be between 1 and 3000. Okay, so we should check if up here if the length of array is not equal to the length of pattern. What do we return? We will return false. Okay, so now what? We should have our mapping, so let's print that out. Take a look at that. Print out mapping. So A maps to dog, B maps to cat, which is what we want for the first example. What about the second test case? A maps to dog, B maps to cat. Yep, so A is already in mapping, so that's why we can't have fish. So this should ultimately output false. Let's take a look at 3. A maps to dog. We only have A, so yep, that should output false. Okay, so our mapping is correct. What do we do now? Well, since the keys in our mapping are the characters in our pattern, can't we just map through or loop through pattern and then print out the value of that character in our mapping? And then we should be able to just return the string of whatever we've created after we've looped through pattern and printed out the values in our mapping. So let's create a resulting array and we'll append to it. So we'll say for character in pattern, which is this. We will say, what will we say? We will say if that character is in our mapping, we want to append mapping of that character. You want to get that value and place it in here. So if we have A in the first example, we would want to append dog, and then we'll move on to B, we'll append cat, B again, append cat, so on and so forth. So this should give us print an array of all of our words. So we get dog, cat, cat, dog. And it looks like that's correct for the first one. What about the second test case? We get dog, cat, cat, dog. Okay, so this should still return false. What we can do is, so it does look like it's working. So what we can do is return a string join, right? All these words are separated by spaces, so we'll separate them by a space with a string join of our resulting array. And we'll say, is this equal to whatever we're trying to compare to? And in this case, we're comparing it to our given string, s. So if it is equal to, we'll return true. Otherwise, it should just return false. So we pass all three test cases. Wrong answer on one of them. So A maps to dog. 4-character in pattern. What do we have here? We've got A, B, B, A. And our S is dog. So let's say, okay, so we're looping in this for loop. We are taking the ith value in our pattern. So if we have A, right, and it's not in our mapping yet, say we start out empty, we'll put in A, and then we will say, we'll also get the corresponding value in our array. So this is where we're wrong. This is where we're wrong. We're putting in A and then mapping it to dog, which is at our, 0th index. But let's say we run into B, right? B's not in our mapping, so we're automatically going to go to this line, and then whatever value is at the ith index in array is also going to be so mapped to that key. So we could have duplicate mappings essentially. So what we're going to have to do is, if pattern of I is not in mapping, so instead of doing that, let's create a set. We'll call it SS is equal to set, and then we'll say if array at the ith position is not in our set, SS, then we will say the character in our pattern is going to be mapped to that value, and then we will just add that value to our set, ss.add. So that should help us avoid the duplicate mappings. Let's run this again. It would help if I spell things correctly. Index out of range, so array I in S. Array of I, length of pattern, list index out of range. This shouldn't matter because this would fail first. But I suppose I could always check this. Yeah. If array of I is not in SS, mapping of our pattern of I is going to be equal to array of I. And then ss.add this. Array. I wonder if we could check it with pattern, not in SS. No, it's still going to be the same. It has to be array. Array of I, add array of I. So where am I going out of range? Mapping pattern of I is equal to array of I. Range length 0, 1, 2, 3. We get 4. Length of our array should be 4. So we go up to, but not including 4. So this should still... If array of I is not in SF. What test case did this fail? I wonder, all the words in a single space does that contain? So if length of array not equal to pattern false. Return false. Okay, so that is what did it. Forgot the return statement up here. Okay, so this does work. The space complexity isn't the greatest, right? We're creating a new data structure here, here, and here, and also here. So the space complexity is going to be O of our res.length plus our set.length plus our array length and plus our mapping length. Now what's the time complexity? The time complexity is going to be, well, this loop is going to be O of n. All right, we're looping through an X number of times, essentially the length of our array, and then we're checking if that indexed position is not in a set, which gives us O of 1, makes this line O of 1 lookup time because we're using a set. If we weren't, this would run in O of n squared time. So this is going to be O of n, and then we are O of n here as well because this is O of 1 lookup time. So our time complexity is going to be O of n for this problem. All right, that does it for LeetCode 290 word pattern. I hope to see everyone in the next one.